So this is what I would like for it to look like when it's done. I kind of set it up ahead of time. It's always a good thing to pre-plan your projects before you start them so that you know what order to put things in, what distance apart, and etc. So I poured a little resin into the tip and got the bubbles out of the tip with the toothpick. Now I'm hitting it with just a little bit of heat so that it gets any residual bubbles. Now this is the background piece that I made previously in my other videos. I showed you how to do that. I did put a slight bend in it because I wanted to be able to pour resin behind it. So I'm holding it in place with some tape because there's a hand-painted painting on the background on that, and I want the resin to protect that. So this is just the first step of pouring it. You want to make sure that you get the tip all the way down in. And now I let it set up till it was almost firm but still kind of soft, so it slowly sucked the sphere in for the sun. It's a citrine sphere. And right here I'm using my Bondic glue, which is a UV glue, so that I can attach the trees, because as I'm pouring this I want to be able to get some resin in and around those trees to hopefully prevent excess bubbles from coming off of them when it comes time to submerge them into the resin. So that's what I'm doing here. The Bondic glue is pretty quick. It's almost instant. And I'm just testing to make sure it's going to stay into place. And I always add a little bit more glue in and around it just so that it holds it in place. This Bondic glue sometimes fails. It pops off pretty easily. But it does the trick for what I need it to, which is basically just to hold things in place until the resin gets a chance to set up. Now, this one is it's a red flowering tree that I'm adding in, and you'll see later in the video that I actually moved it because this is where the Bondic had failed, and it's actually a good thing because I wasn't thinking about it. It being upside down made it kind of reverse, and I put the tree on the wrong side. So it was a happy accident. So now here's where I'm pouring resin behind it. I'm trying to get it poured in there as slowly as I can so it has a chance to get in there without creating a whole bunch of bubbles or air pockets. And then just hitting it with some heat. And you'll see coming in with a toothpick, I always try to get in and around the corners and the edges because bubbles like to hang out there. And it helps to bring them to the surface by moving the resin around. And now I'm kind of poking it a little bit behind it. And see how I'm pulling that away from the back edge a little bit? That's just releasing air. It's making it to where the resin can fall completely behind it. And it will seep out the side some, which is just fine because I will pour more resin later. So this is the next level that I'm pouring in here. And as you can see, I still haven't moved my red tree. But here I am again. See, I lost some of the resin. It had seeped down the side, so I'm trying to fill it in a little bit more. And then I'll just continue to do this pretty much throughout the pouring process. And there was a little piece of debris from one of the trees that had fallen into the resin, so I pulled that out and going around the edge again, trying to get any of the bubbles. And here is where I tried to get the resin in. I'm going to continue to do this throughout because it's going to seep out of the trees, but it's going to coat it. So hopefully when these trees are submerged, the bubbles will have, there will be no reason for bubbles. There will be nothing to release bubbles or get trapped in there. That's the idea behind this. But it's also where that that tree right there, the Bondic glue failed because it actually, once I don't show it on the film, but once I'm done filming, it fell off. And like I said, it was a happy accident. You'll see I move it in the next video. It's moved over to the correct side. So it worked out well. See? Ha! There it is. But it was already coated, so it was kind of tacky, and that helped me to stick it back on without it failing again. And again, here I'm just putting in more of the resin in and around the trees. Eventually, hopefully it'll fill up any gaps in there, so like I said, once it's submerged, there won't be any bubbles. It won't create any bubbles. Because I've noticed that in the past, that the trees and the bushes and everything, they create a lot of bubbles if you don't pre-treat them.